Hello friends, welcome back. In this video, we'll be discussing some more critical reasoning questions that are forming part of the CAT VRC section as well as the VRC sections of other management entrance examinations. We have discussed the basic concepts and some relevant questions in the previous videos. And if you are a person who's watching this channel for the first time, please go back and watch the previous videos on critical reasoning to get a better understanding so that then you come back to this video so that your understanding becomes more clear and crisp. So without wasting further time, let us straight away dive into the questions. This is the first question. All right, so the passage is not very difficult. It is talking about an experiment conducted by psychologists on the effect of violence on children. So, in order to make the conclusion, what the researchers did, they showed a movie where a teenager or a boy was uh, depicted to indulge in a lot of violent acts, and after the movie was shown, the children were allowed to play, and in that play during that playtime 42% of the children were seen to imitate the violent acts that were shown to them, or 42% of the children engaged in violence. So that was the first experiment, and in a second experiment another group of children were shown a similar film, but only difference is that in this case the person who was indulging in violence in the film was a girl. So instead of a boy, a girl was seen to engage in a lot of violence in that movie, and after that again the children were asked to play, and during that playtime the lesser number of children were engaging in violence. So the conclusion of the psychologists is that children tend to imitate violence when the violence is shown to them in films, when that violence is done by a boy rather than a girl, or when a boy is shown using violence in movies, children tend to imitate them more than when a girl is shown to indulge in violence in movies. This is the simple conclusion. Now, coming to the question, it is asking us to find an option that weakens the claim of the psychologists, or whatever conclusion we have arrived at. The last sentence is the conclusion. Children are more likely to imitate violent behavior in film when a male model is shown than when a female model is shown. So anything that weakens this should be your answer. Option A, in both the experiments, the victims of the filmed violence included both males and females. So in both the experiments, the victims means the people who are on whom the violence is inflicted, they are containing both males and females. So in both the experiments this is the same, so how can you weaken the conclusion? And anyway, we are not, our question is not about the victims, our question is about the people who are engaging in violence after seeing a film in which violence is there. So anyway, this is not a good answer because it is not at all relevant to our conclusion. Option B, in the second experiment, 28% of the children appeared upset during the viewing of the violent film. Still means these 28 percentage, since they are upset, they will not be engaging in violence. True, these people will not be engaging in violence. So when you, how you can compare it with the first experiment. In the first experiment, how many people appeared upset, or how many children appeared upset after viewing the film, we don't know. We only know that after the film 42% of children engaged in violence. So how many people appeared upset? If you assume that all the 42% were not upset, means the remaining 58% were upset during the film. Here 28% were upset during the film. So more percentage of children were upset. It means you can if you want to assume like that, you can assume that more percentage of children were upset during the viewing of the this film. Then what should happen? They should not be indulging in violence. But here what is given, 28% of the children appeared upset, still 14% engaged in violence. So since you don't have the data regarding the number of people who were upset during the film or viewing of the first set, this again is not enough for us to make any conclusion, because this is only talking about the people who appeared upset. Whether these people who were upset on seeing violence, whether they will indulge in violence or not, that we don't know. Even if we assume that these people will not be indulging in violence, in the absence of the data regarding the first set, we cannot say that this is going to weaken the conclusion. So we can ignore this as well. Option C, the first group included 19 male students and 20 female. Second group included 20 male and 21 female. So here the difference between the male and female in both the groups is just 1. So this option is mainly hinting that if there are more male students in the group, then they will be in those people will more people will be indulging in violence in that group. Thus that could be the rationale behind this statement. But here you can see that the number of male students in both the groups are almost equal, or the male to female ratio is almost equal. So again, since the number of male students in both the groups are almost equal, this again will not help us in weakening the conclusion. So we will ignore this. Option D, in the first group, 58% of the children appeared bored during the showing of the film, 12% fell asleep. It is talking about the people who are not interested in seeing violence, 58% in the first group. What about the second group, we don't know. Since we have no idea regarding how many percentage of children in the second group were bored and all, this again is not going to help us in making a comparison. So you can ignore it. Option E, the percentage of children known to have discipline problems prior to the experiment was greater in the first group than in the second group. This is a good answer. Why? Because it says that even before the viewing of the film, the first group, more people had discipline problems. So they were already a group of unruly children, or children who are indisciplined. When such a group of children who are already indisciplined, when they are being shown a violent film, more obviously more of them will be engaging in violence. So here we are talking about an initial condition which is not really equal for both the groups, where any research or any experiment will be successful when all the initial conditions are remaining the same. There should not be any difference in the initial conditions, whereas this option is talking about a initial condition which is tilted in favor of the first group, where the children are already having disciplinary problems. When such children are viewing a film, obviously they will become more violent. So this is actually weakening the psychologist's conclusion, because psychologists are concluding only on the basis of the experiment, saying that children will indulge in violence when they see a boy indulging in violence rather than a girl indulging in violence. But here this option is giving us the possibility that this group where more children engaged in violence, they already were having a lot of discipline issues, they were already a violent group, means they will definitely indulge in violence whether they have seen the movie or not seen the movie. So indirectly it means that it is not the movie that is responsible for the violent behavior of the children, it is their inherent discipline issues. So that is why this option is actually weakening the conclusion of the psychologist. Option E should be your answer. I hope it is clear. We will move to the next question. See, we are now doing it in a very fast manner, because the previous videos we have done a lot of detailed explanations and all. So by now you should be having the skill to find the answers on your own. So I'll only be giving you certain points that clarifies your answer without going into too much detail, because you already should have the ability to understand most of the things. Again, a very simple question. It is talking about an airlines which was taken over by the employees. Means the employees might have purchased the airlines from the owners and started running it themselves. So that happened. Then they hired another advertising agency to handle its promotions. And after these two developments, what happened? The profits of this airline company started increasing. So after the takeover by the employees, when you compare the profits between today and with the profit that the company was having after the takeover, the profit has increased over 20 percentage. And when you compare the profit of today with the profit when the company's advertising was given to this agency, the profit has increased 10 percentage. So that means it is directly telling us that the profit of the company has increased drastically after the developments of taking over, as well as giving the advertising agency the promotion responsibilities. This is what the passage says, and the conclusion is an employee ownership and a good advertising agency are combined to make air mainline profitable. So with these facts, the conclusion is that the profitability of the airline is because of the ownership by the employees and a good advertising agency. So this is the conclusion. Now what is the or the argument? What is the question? The question is to find the weak point in the argument. So we have to find what is the weakness in this argument. So the argument is that mainline and airlines became profitable because of the takeover by the employees and because of the efforts done by the advertising agency. Now you have to find a statement that weakens this argument. So option A, it fails to establish a logical connection between the change in ownership and the hiring of Calico on one hand and the rise in profits. So this option is mainly saying that yes, profits have risen. We also have the fact that the employees have taken over the airlines and they have given a or they have hired a good advertising agency. But what is the connection? Means how the ownership of the airline by the employees and how the efforts of Qualico have resulted in mainline airlines profits, it is not given. So the passage is not giving the connection between the change in ownership and the hiring of advertising agency to the rise in profits. So good option, because it only says that this airline was purchased by the employees and they hired the advertising agency and the profit started rising. But how these have resulted in the profits, it is not given. So this is a weakness. So you can consider it as a weakness when the logic is not really established. So probable answer, keep it in your mind. Option B, it presents no evidence showing that employee-owned airlines are any more profitable than other airlines. So what is the meaning here? It says that it presents no evidence showing that employee-owned airlines are any more profitable than other lines. So see, the word airlines means it is talking about plural, all airlines. So here this option is talking about all employee-owned airlines becoming more profitable than other airlines. Are we discussing about all the employee-owned airlines becoming more profitable? No, our argument is only about mainline employee airline becoming profitable. So the argument or the conclusion is not about all employee airlines, owned airlines becoming profitable. It is only talking about mainline. So whereas the option is generalizing the statement by saying that all employee owned airlines are more profitable than other airlines. That is wrong. And another thing is the option says that it presents no evidence to prove this, whereas the evidence is already given. The evidence the passage is giving is that the profits of the airline or this particular airline has risen over 20 percentage in 5 years and 10 percentage in 3 years. So this statement that there is no evidence is wrong. So again, two reasons why this option is not a good answer. Option C, it assumes that the profit of mainline airways will continue to rise. No, the passage is not saying anywhere that, or it is not hinting. Assumes means there should be an assumption. The passage is not assuming that the profit will continue to rise in future also. It is only talking about the present situation and the past situation. What about the future? Nothing is stated here. So this again is not a good answer. Option D, it gives no exact figures for the current profits of mainline airways. Exact figures are needed or not needed? It is not needed. The percentage is already given, so exact figures are not needed. So this again is not an option that weakens the argument. Option E, it fails to explain how the profits of mainline airlines are calculated. We are not interested in how the profits are calculated. Our problem is that how the profits have increased with employee ownership and the hiring of advertising agencies not given in the passage. It only says that profits have increased after the employees took over the airlines and after the particular advertising agency was appointed. But how? That is not given. The option is talking about the how the calculation of profit. We are not bothered about the calculation of the profits. We are only bothered about how the profit, the process by which the profits have, the connection between the increase in the profits and the employee ownership. That is not given. So that is the weakness in the argument. So when an argument is to be given, it has to, the facts have to support the argument. In this case, facts are there and evidences are there, but how that facts are leading to the argument is not given. So that is the problem here. All these are irrelevant. We are talking about irrelevant things. So option A is the only relevant weakness, because it is not giving the logical connection between the profits and the employee ownership. So option A should be the answer to your question. Always remember in mind, our question is to find the weak point in the argument. So weakness in the argument is that the argument is not able to, the facts are not able to clearly establish the argument. That is the weakness which is given in option A. So option A should be the answer. Okay, go to the next question, third one. All right. So it is talking about some restrictions placed on free speech, either in spoken language or in the print language, that is either offensive or insulting to some groups like women, racial or ethnic or religious minorities. So the restrictions are placed on voicing your opinions or writing again anything that could be offensive to either women or racial or ethnic or religious minorities, and these are justified on the basis of democracy. So the people who are putting these regulations, they are justifying this by saying that they are needed in the name of democracy. But the argument in the passage is that democracy means freedom of speech and the press. So that is the true spirit of democracy. So in a true democracy, there should be freedom of speech and the press. So when we are restricting your freedom of speech and freedom of press and defending it in the name of democracy, that is not correct. That is the meaning of the passage. So the passage is basically arguing that when some things that are restricted and those restrictions are defended in the name of democracy, that is not correct, because democracy itself means there should be freedom of speech and freedom of press. So that is the true spirit of democracy. So now the argument, what is the logic used in the argument to prove its point? The argument above attempts to prove its case primarily by, so the what is the main thrust of the argument? So main thrust of the argument is given in the last part. So when you are defending something in the name of democracy which is anti-democratic, that is not true democracy. That is the clear thrust of the argument. So going to the options. Impugning the credentials of an opponent. What is impugning? Disputing or questioning. Impugning means disputing or questioning the credentials, means qualifications. So impugning the credentials of an opponent means when you are questioning the relevance or questioning the authenticity or the qualification of a person who is making an opposing view. So this is like questioning instead of questioning the logic of the argument, if you question the qualifications or the question directly questioning the authority of a person who is making a opposing view, that is called impugning the credentials. This is what we regularly see in TV debates and all, where instead of directly answering to the logic of the argument, they will divert and start hurling abuses or insulting the person who is making the argument. That is called impugning the credentials here. But in this case, there is no impugning. The passage is not questioning the person who is making any opposing argument. So this is why this is not a good answer. Option B, providing examples that support a theoretical principles. Are there any examples given? No, we are only talking about the restrictions placed on free speech in many college campuses, because these whatever you say could be offensive to other people, religious, ethnic minorities, women, etc. So that is the restrictions are placed, and these restrictions are not democratic. That is what the passage says. So no examples are given. So providing examples is not a good answer. Option C, taking advantage of inconsistencies in the definition of democracy, means there are certain inconsistency. Inconsistency is something that is not very consistent with each other, that is not very matching with each other, that is called inconsistencies. Here in the passage we are not talking about the definition of democracy. We are saying that these regulations are defended in the name of democracy, and it is opposing the true spirit of democracy. So it is not talking about the inconsistencies in the definition of democracy. We cannot clearly say that because we don't know whether any inconsistencies are there in the definition of democracy or not. So not a good answer. Option D, revealing a contradiction in an opposing point of view. This could be a good answer. Why? Because the opposing point of view, or the persons who are defending these regulations, what they are saying that these regulations are needed in the name of democracy. So when you say that democracy means freedom of speech and press, and that is a true spirit of democracy, so you should not defend such restrictions and in the name of democracy, you are actually revealing a contradiction in the opponent's point of view. So the person who says that restrictions are needed for the sake of democracy, you are saying that no, restrictions should not be there because such restrictions are against the true spirit of democracy, means you are actually revealing the contradiction in the opponent's point of view. So there is a contradiction, definitely a contradiction is there in the opponent's point of view, because something that is defended in the name of democracy, whereas democracy itself means freedom of speech and press. So that is why this is a good answer, probable answer. Option E, appealing to the patriotic feelings of its audience. We are not talking anything about the there is no mention about the patriotic feeling. Patriotic feeling is a love for your country. So there is no mention regarding any patriotism or love for your country in the passage. So this is again a very irrelevant option. So the very clear cut answer is option D, revealing a contradiction. So don't go for this option C, taking advantage of inconsistencies. You might have some confusion here, but here the passage is not talking anything about the definition of democracy or its inconsistencies. It is only revealing a contradiction in the opponent's logic. So the opposite party is providing a logic, you are exposing the contradiction in that logic. So option D is the clear answer here. So this is how you arrive at the answer. Hope you have found the questions to be useful. I have deliberately cut down the explanation so that you develop the skill to go through the options and arrive at your answer. My purpose now will only be to clarify certain doubts, and now what you have to do is that focus on the incorrect answers and try to understand why those answers are incorrect. You might be getting the correct answer through your own logic, but you should also be very clear about why the other answers are wrong. That will help you to reconfirm your answer. So focus on the wrong answers and try to understand why they are wrong. That is the technique you should develop. That will help you to reconfirm your correct answer. If you have any doubts or queries regarding the questions that we have discussed, you can ask me in the WhatsApp group. If the description of the WhatsApp group is given in the link below, you can join the WhatsApp group. It is absolutely free. Then we are sharing a lot of other useful materials also in the group. If you have found this video to be useful, Please like, share, and subscribe so that I get more reach, and that will motivate me to do further videos. Thank you. Bye bye.